My brothers and sisters in Christ, I preached this past Sunday on the occasion of the Gospel of the Transfiguration of the Lord about how we so often have selective hearing of the Gospel, much like the apostles did. Jesus, before and after his transfiguration, is speaking very pointedly about the cross, his need to suffer and die, and how his disciples must take up their cross as well. And they don't want to hear it. Peter famously says, heaven forbid, Lord, this ever happened to you. To which Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. You're thinking as human beings do, not as God does. And so in our gospel today, Jesus continues to tell his disciples, he's explaining his coming passion to them, the necessity of it. And the disciples still are not hearing. Or at least they're not listening. Perhaps they're hearing the words, but they're not truly listening. It's not penetrating to their hearts. Perhaps they're hearing it as a step, but not as a transformational way of life. And this is evident by the fact that right after he talks about the need to die, James and John are caught up in this scheme to get seats of honor at the left and right of Jesus. And of course, the other 10 are indignant, and it's because they didn't think of the idea first, so now they're mad at James and John. And you can imagine the irritation that Jesus must have felt, or at least he would if he were more flawed like I am, just shaking his head at how dense the disciples are being. And he says again, the Son of Man has come to serve, not to be served. So must it be with you. To be my disciple isn't to lord it over others. It's not for acclaim, for power, for prestige. It's for service. It's self-emptying. And so this is the message of the cross for us that we must hear during Lent. And we can try to keep the cross at arm's length, something that we appreciate that Jesus did, or a need to occasionally do a little act of penance here and there, pray the Stations of the Cross. But we don't truly get it unless we allow the cross, the spirituality of the cross, to penetrate to our very core. And by that I mean that the cross is a way of life, not just something to be endured. We are not on this earth to get ahead. We're not on this earth to pursue our own ends, our own goals, our own desires, but we are created for God, and we're created for one another. God calls us to follow him, to take up our cross, as Jesus did, and to be perfected in a love that is poured out for God and neighbor. So this means that the cross isn't just an external for us. It isn't just something to humble us while we continue on our means, but it's meant to reorient our entire lives, to put aside our ambitions, our needs to get ahead, to gain acclaim, to gain wealth, whatever it may be. But instead, our purpose is to take up our cross, to love the cross, and to be completely poured out in love. In a sense, we live in order to die. That is the mission of Christ in his incarnation. He came to die for us sinners. And only in our willingness to fully embrace death and a wholeness of our freedom to give ourselves away can we truly find what life and freedom look like. Only then can we be perfected in love. And until that message truly lands in our hearts, we will go about floundering in the spiritual life. We'll go about doing some good things here and there while trying to hold on tightly to our own life that we've carefully planned out for ourselves, instead of realizing that we're called to lay that down and to live a life radically for God, to hear his call, and every call includes the cross, and to live it faithfully, obediently, and freely. May God bless you all.